Okay, guys, you just finished listening to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song. And I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to talk to you guys about this story and the organization of it. I know there are lots of great stories we could have chosen and talked about, but this is one I think is particularly fun to listen to. And it also helps us look at this story organization. The Fresh Prince's story had a story arc. Most stories you guys have read have some kind of story arc, though it may not be entirely linear. Your story needs to have underpinning it a story arc so that your thoughts can be well organized. You can see on this slide a story arc that shows exposition, rising action, climax, falling action. But I wanted to take a minute to walk you through the Fresh Prince's story so you guys can kind of see how this plays out in an actual story. So first of all, he starts off in West Philadelphia, where he's playing basketball, hanging out, relaxing. And then the conflict, the thing that really gets things going is this fight he has, where a couple of guys are starting trouble in his neighborhood and he has to get in this fight, or he chooses to get in this fight. And his mom says, nah, you got to move to Bel-Air, man. And then all the way up the rising action hill is his trip to Bel-Air, right? He begs and pleads with his mom. She packs his suitcase and gives him a ticket. He puts his Walkman on. He drinks orange juice in a champagne glass on the plane. The plane lands and he sees this chauffeur. He thinks it's a police officer and he runs. He takes the cab. He notices the cab is pretty cool. And then the climax is he arrives at the house, right? This finishes this conflict that got started with the fight and the choice to move to Bel-Air. He arrives at the house. And then the resolution is that he sits on the throne as the prince. You'll notice there's not a lot of falling action in this story, and that's okay. You may not find there's much in yours either. You may go right from climax to the resolution. And this is something I think that we often misunderstand in English class, is that all parts of the story arc are created equal, and that's not true. Usually the exposition is fairly short, just long enough to introduce us to the setting and the characters. Then the conflict is usually one event. The rising action is where most of the story lives. The climax is toward the end because this is that highest point of action. Once you've hit the climax, there's nothing else fun to really listen to. But the story does end with a resolution, right? He becomes the Fresh Prince. Your story needs to end with a resolution where you have got some sense of how this story has affected you and what you've learned from it. So I don't so much care if you don't have any falling action, but you've got to have that resolution there.